It's a lot easier being sat down there, that's for sure. I just want to start by kind of echoing what Dan mentioned before in terms of today, to be vulnerable, be open, be honest. And if you do all of those three things, then today will be time well spent. So before we kind of get started, I want to tell you who I am, because you're probably all sat there thinking, who is this guy who doesn't look like a fitness coach? So this is me here. So my name's Sean Holden, and for the last 4 years, I've been in the coaching space. But before then, I started off in recruitment, and I was one of their top sales guys on a team of 12. We did about 8K profit, which is 189K in 6 months. Now, I absolutely loved what I did, but I didn't love making this money for recruitment companies. So back in 2021, I certified as a coach, and since then I have helped well over 400 business owners end self-sabotaging thoughts. 6, 7, and even 8-figure business owners. The reason why we've been able to help 6, 7, and even 8-figure business owners is because behind every business is a person, and we work with the person behind the business. As you can see here, the last 12 months, we've helped well over 100 business owners and coaches to end self-sabotage. And now I run a company called Elite Coaching Academy. We do about 50K per month. The only reason I'm doing these numbers is because I'm no longer the king of self-sabotage. So let's make sure this is working. Okay, this is my goal for today. Please write this down. And if you don't write this down, maybe that in of itself is a form of self-sabotage. So I want to give you an insight as to why you do what you do. So why you do what you do. I want to give you an insight as to why you don't do what you know you should do. And finally, why sometimes you think you can't do what you really want to do. This isn't supposed to be a tongue twister, but I'll go back. So why you do what you do, why you don't do what you know you should do, and why sometimes you think you can't do what you really want to do. Everyone got that written down? Okay. I'll give you another 30 seconds. Cool, let's move on. So if you were all able to walk away from today's talk with a different perspective and maybe some answers as to what I've just mentioned, would that be a good use of your time today? Yes. Pardon? Yes. Amazing. Let's get started. So before we do, I need you to understand something. I need you to all understand that we all have a map of the world. When we are born, we come out of the womb as a blank canvas, okay? There's no discrimination. We don't have these beliefs, these thoughts that we can't do certain things. We have a map of the world that is constructed by a handful of things. So these things include where we were born. Okay? So where we were born largely dictates how we see the world. I probably wouldn't be stood up here today if I was born in South Sudan. That's the reality. Okay, so can everyone agree that where we were born plays a huge role in how we see the world? Yeah, just a show of hands? Yeah? Awesome. Let's move on. When we were born. So when we were born, of course, plays a huge role how we see the world. Give you a quick example. My nan, when I told her I was starting a business, she told me this is risky, what you need to do to make money and to kind of be financially secure. She said you need to get a job, work really hard, get a really good pension, and then retire. You ask maybe a 20-year-old, what do you need to do to become kind of financially stable? What would they say? TikTok, crypto, YouTube, start a business. So can we all agree when we were born plays a huge role in how we see the world? Yeah? Hands? Awesome. Authority figures. I want to make a distinction before we go on any further. Authority figures are different to our parents and caregivers, and we'll move on to that very shortly. Authority figures, you want to kind of think of maybe Dan. Dan's probably an authority figure that you guys all kind of look up to. Maybe social media guys, Hermosi, these types of people. These are all authority figures that change the way we see the world. Okay? Maybe I want to kind of unpack this a little bit more. Maybe you grew up and there was a gym teacher. Maybe if you're religious, there's a pastor or a priest. These are authority figures, and they alter the way we see the world. Again, show of hands, can we all agree? Authority figures? Perfect. Now let's move on to the touchy subject one. Parents and caregivers. Okay. We all know the way in which we are has largely been impacted by our parents, our caregivers. Maybe it was mum, maybe it was dad, maybe it was foster parents. These people around us largely impact how we see the world. You can have two different people born in the same country in the same era, at the same country, the same era, with the same authority figures, but they have different parents, and they will grow up and see the world very, very differently. So can we all agree, your parents and caregivers? Yep, amazing. Okay, you might be sat there thinking, okay, Sean, well, why is this important? Well, I wanted to preface this talk by just letting you know and understand that every single one of us in this room has our own map of the world. None of us see the world the same, okay? Which the reason for that, as you all know, we're all complex individuals. So I want you to write this down. So we have 2 life plans. This is how it all kind of comes together with a self-sabotage. So we have 2 life plans. One that was created for us subconsciously. If I got a little pointer on this. There we go. Beautiful. Look at that. Perfect. So this is the life plan. This was created for us. Okay? This one was created to keep us safe. Was created to essentially not upset the status quo. Okay? And we have another one, which we have created. We all have these goals, these dreams. Maybe we want to hit certain financial targets in our coaching business. Maybe we want to retire our family members. Maybe we want to buy a nice car, etc. So we have 2 life plans. This one, as I said, just to really drive that home, has been created subconsciously. This one has been created consciously. Okay, now, this is why we self-sabotage. Self-sabotage occurs when our drive to avoid a threat is higher than our desire to attain a reward. Okay, so if I was to just do a little graph with my hand, self-sabotage occurs when our drive to avoid a threat is significantly higher than our desire to attain a reward. That's it. Okay? Does that make sense? If that doesn't make sense, tell me, because it means I haven't done a good enough job of articulating it.
Can you say it one more time?
Of course. So self-sabotage occurs when our drive to avoid a threat is significantly higher than our desire to attain a reward. Okay? It's when this life plan outweighs this life plan. Make sense?
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, so the first one, this one here, the one that's being created for us subconsciously, is an acronym. Write this down. These 4 elements. So we got poor self-concept, limiting transferred beliefs, anxiety of change, and need for control. If you just look up once you've got it all popped down, we'll continue. As soon as I see all of your wonderful faces, we'll carry on. Fabulous. Let's do it. Okay, so quick self-assessments. I do not want this to just be me talking and you listening. I hate that. I really want this to be interactive. I'm going to be asking for your opinion. I'm going to be asking if you've got questions. And I'm also going to be asking if you can relate to what I'm sharing. So what I want you all to do now is very quickly, I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do this, but I want you to have a little think about ways in which that you might be self-sabotaging right now. Ways in which that maybe you're holding yourself back in the business. So I'll give you a couple of examples. One thing that I've been doing very recently is I've been refraining from hiring a closer. And I'm still in the trenches, sales call after sales call. Nice problem to have, I know, but I've been refraining from doing this. Now this, of course, is keeping me from working with my current clients, and we could argue is a form of self-sabotage. So just take a moment and write something down, because you're going to need it later. And if you don't write something down, that in of itself is self-sabotage. If you're struggling to think of maybe how you're holding yourself back in business, maybe it's not in business, maybe it's something else. Maybe it's in a relationship with your fitness journey. Is anybody struggling to think of one? Yeah? Okay. Would anyone like to, and you can do this between yourselves, anyone like to share what you've popped down with, what's your name, sorry? Jack, with Jack? Anybody around this table? Do you want the microphone?
No.
Sure? I tried.
Do I need to speak loudly?
No. It'll be helpful. What you're sharing now might benefit every single person here.
So, what I'm self-sabotaging with right now is I'm not letting go of the job that I have in the hair industry. If I let go of that, I will most likely 100% have more time and will put more effort into building what it is that I'm going to build in this business. So that is actually holding me back, and it has to go.
Perfect, yeah. Yeah, well done. Something coming up for you now? Amazing. Thank you for your help. Anyone over here struggling? No? Good. Everyone should have something because we're always a work in progress. Okay, cool. So let's start with poor self-concept. I promise you now, I'm not being arrogant. This stuff will be able to change your life and your business. So please take notes, ask me questions. This will be really, really helpful. And as I said, explain to you a little bit more about why you are the way you are. So, self-concept consists of different social roles that we play within society. So every single social role that we play within society, you all have a level of self-esteem associated to it, okay? Some could argue fitness isn't a social role, granted, but we will all have this identity of ourselves and the relationship we have with fitness. This can be substituted for health. Maybe some of you are sat here today and you're like, I don't have a partner. Cool, that can be substituted. Or maybe you're not a parent. Cool, that also can be substituted. Okay, it's just for the presentation purpose. So, let's start with business. Everyone here runs a business, right? Or starting to run a business, great. So, as I said, every single social role that you play within society has a level of self-esteem associated to it. Okay, but what we can do as well, we can unpack the business one a little bit more. Because within the business, we all play different roles as a business owner. Business owner is very kind of subjective. Some of us, I hope this is relevant for everybody, but we're coaches, we're salespeople, we're marketers. If we have teams, we're leaders. And if we, when we're running a business, we need to be an accountant. We need to look after our own finances. Okay, so I wanted to break this down because it's not just a case of it's business owner. And maybe now just looking at this, some of you excel as a coach. Some of you are really shit at sales. Some of you are terrible at managing your money. And if you have teams, maybe you're good or bad leaders, okay? Is this all landing? Make sense? Yeah. Cool. So let's go back to this one. Coach, parent, partner, business, fitness. Again, interchangeable with fitness and health.
You can even make parent about yourself if you don't have a kid. You parent yourself, don't you?
You could do.
You like look after yourself.
Yeah.
You can still be shit at it and good at your business.
Yeah, absolutely. You could. My point being here, and I really like sharing this, is because there's so many different hats that we wear within business. Like so many. You know, and some people, you'll hear the term people say, you know, oh, I'm confident, but it depends like what I'm talking about. Well, this is it. It's like, oh, I'm confident being a coach, but when I jump on a call, I'm really shit at sales. I'm not really confident at that. This is the self-concept. Every single role we play within society has a different level of self-esteem associated to it. And the self-esteem is based on how well we think we are performing in that social role. Okay? So I've done a 10 out of 10 here. Keep it nice and simple. Let's say 10 is the ideal self. Okay? So, this is where it gets interesting. So, I've just made some random numbers up here. But let's say, as a coach, you're 6 out of 10. Maybe you have kids. Just humor me if you don't. Maybe you feel like a great parent. When it comes to your relationships, I'm okay, I'm not amazing. Business, yeah, I'm on it. Business is great. And then fitness, yeah, that kind of, you know, don't really do well in that. To be fair, this was probably me last year. For the last 4 years, I've just gone business, business, business. Ironically, a form of self-sabotage, because what I've realized now I've actually hired a coach. Now I've actually kind of got a routine, know what I'm eating, when I'm eating it, etc. I'm now being able to perform better in business. So, this is what I want to kind of go through with you. So, the gap between your current level of self-esteem within the social role that you're playing and the ideal self, this is where self-sabotage occurs. This is where procrastination, poor habits, avoidance, this is where all the nasty stuff that we don't want happens. This is why, and I've shared this because I think you're all fitness coaches, this is why we can have people who are absolutely dialed in on fitness. Like there's no self-sabotage. We eat our macros, we do the protein, like we go on the steps, we lift the weights, we do what we need to do, but we're fucking shit in business. It works the other way as well. You can be amazing at business and really terrible at fitness. Like I said, this was me. This was me here. I see this happen a lot with fitness coaches. Like they're dialed in, they're in immaculate shape, and then I'm like, okay, well, like, how much time have you spent on the business? Like, no, I've spent 2 hours in the gym. Like, well, I thought the goal was to grow the business. Yeah, well, again, it's self-sabotage. Can anybody relate to this? Yes. Show of hands. Cool. What about the other one? Dialed in on business and fitness is a mess. Anybody? Cool, yeah. It was me too. Okay, and this is also why I've seen coaches who are amazing at coaching, but fucking terrible at managing their finances. As you can see, the coach, 8 out of 10. Accountant, 2 out of 10. You wouldn't believe the amount of coaches I've seen doing 30, 40, 50K a month, and they have like $2,000 in the bank. Cash flow is just horrendous. This is also why I've seen Business owners turning over 8 figures per year. And they're divorced, overweight, and terrible parents. That's their words, not mine. The problem with this, of course, as I said, it's all self-sabotage. And self-sabotage is like a toothache. The longer you leave it, the worse it gets. The worse it gets, the worse the outcome. Please write this down, draw it. This will be really helpful for you. The more you self-sabotage, the worse your self-concept becomes. And the worse your self-concept becomes, the more you self-sabotage. Perfect. So, to summarize, every single social role that you play within society has a level of self-esteem associated to it based on how well that you think you are performing within that social role. And remember, the bigger the gap between where you are and where you think you should be, that's where self-sabotage occurs. I want you to stand up and let me know if you can relate to the P in plan, poor self-concept. Okay, amazing, thank you. Sit down, well done. Okay, perfect. So what I'd like to do, I'd like a volunteer from each table, and we don't need to spend too much time on this, just to kind of, if you'd be vulnerable, like Dan said at the beginning, and just share how you can relate to that. Is the poor self-concept in the business, as a parent, as a partner? What is it? Let's start over in the back table here.
I'm almost like right in the corner. My poor self-concept is definitely balancing the parenting and the business side of things, and the balance of anyone else who's a mum in your mum guilt in comparison to the amount of volume that I'm putting into trying to make this work. And actually, in the long run, it's for my family.
Mm-hmm.
But that time just now is it's just difficult to balance that.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
that impacts into having to manage it and getting it.
Yeah, what's your name?
Laura.
Laura. Everyone give Laura a round of applause. You're getting a round of applause for going first. Not everyone's getting one. Let's go to this table.
Don't look at me, I talk too much. Anyone? No? Okay, cool. Yeah? Go on, Mark, you're edging. Okay. My issue is, like, my brain feels like spaghetti.
Okay.
Just scrambled.
Have you ever had scrambled spaghetti before?
No. It just feels like a mess. Like, it feels
Okay.
like cooked spaghetti. Like, you get, like, uncooked spaghetti and it's all just in line and it's just in shape.
Okay.
It's just like a mess.
Okay.
And I feel like the biggest issue I have is getting to bed, going to bed on time, and I feel like from there, like, everything is just out of whack.
Okay.
That's how I feel, and I'm like, okay, I spend too much time focusing on one thing, and I'm like, no, I need to go and do that, and so it's like jumping. There's no, like, there's structure, but it's like, do I always follow the structure? And then, like, spending, like, it depends on whatever season it is. I'll be like, oh, okay, I need to do this, so I'm going to do loads of that,
Okay.
none of that, and then all of a sudden it's all of that, and then none of that, and it just, that's what happens. That's where my self-sabotage is.
Okay. So this is what we mentioned before.
That's me.
Okay, cool. So what, just to make sure we're on the same page, you feel as if there's multiple social roles that you play within society
Yeah.
where your self-concept is relatively low, right?
And my self-concept of time as well. I always feel like I've got more time than I actually have.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
But seriously, Heather said to me, it's 1 minute past 9, we're leaving at 9:15. And I'm like, yeah, I've got loads of time.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you for sharing. What's your name?
Richie.
Richu?
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This table?
I guess for me, it's amending the structure to fit everything in.
Okay.
Where I'm a parent, full-time job, and then obviously trying to move over to having my own business
Mm-hmm.
for the best of everything individually.
Okay.
It's where I take the time away and put into that as well.
Okay.
I guess that's where I self-sabotage, where I don't have the urgency to do things for the business that I want to start.
Got you. So your self-concept within the business of roads.
Well, yeah.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. What's your name?
Danny.
Danny, nice to meet you. Thank you very much. We'll move to this table and we'll run round. Let me ask a better question. What social role that you play within society causes you to self-sabotage the most? Let's go to this table here. Excuse the pointing.
I'm not sure I'm answering the question properly, but I would say my self-sabotage is in the business accountancy part, where I'm just always just thinking, oh, it'll work itself out.
Yeah.
And that would be mine.
Sounds like you're
Self-sabotaging the kind of end goal all the time.
got you. Sounds like you answered the question perfect. Thank you. What's your name?
Rachel.
Rachel, thank you very much. Over to this one.
Okay.
Let's go.
For me, it's coach. I feel like I always have this anxiety that I'm not a good coach. And
Okay.
That's something I've always really struggled with.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like in the business, I should be giving more time to other elements of the business, but I feel like I'm constantly doing so much coaching because I'm worried that I'm not giving enough or I'm not delivering enough. And I have a real anxiety around that, and I've always had it.
Do you want some help with that?
Please.
How will you know if you're a good coach?
Results. Results.
Do you have clients?
Yeah.
How many clients do you have?
I have 24 at the moment.
Amazing. Straight after this today, you're going to check in with every single one of them and ask them a simple question. Is there anything else I can be doing more for you?
Yeah.
That's it. Just ask them that.
Okay.
If they say no, then you're doing your job right. Okay? Helpful?
Yeah, very helpful.
Amazing. Over to this table. Let's go. What's your name?
Jack.
Nice to
So
meet you.
Nice to meet you. I actually said this in September, but mine is business, I think. So I like my family, we're not like broke.
Mhm.
We've never like, nobody earns loads of money. So I now am in a position where like, I find it mad that I can be on the phone with someone for like 45 minutes, them send me like £1,000.
It's good, isn't it?
And it is, but it's like a subconscious thing that I'm like, there's a bit of friction towards it. I'm like, this feels weird. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Do you feel guilty?
yeah.
Because you're not used to it.
So like, as much as I think, like, obviously, I want to earn good money and be successful, change people's lives, change my life, it's still like, hold on, this isn't normal.
What do you mean it's not normal? There's people in the world making hundreds, 200s, 500,000, millions every month.
And this is, and like Dan has been saying this for years for me, but like when you realise there's lots of people in the world with money, like there's people around in this room earning, I don't know, 1k a month, 2k, there's also people earning 20, 30, 50. So like, it's until you get in that environment more, I think it becomes more normal.
Mm-hmm. What do you help people with?
My like niche is men losing fat.
Okay. And how much impact do you want to have on the world?
A lot. Well, a lot of impact on every individual client that I work with.
Okay.
I want them to achieve their goal.
Okay. So it sounds like you need to deal with that kind of insecurity of maybe asking for money or being successful so that you can have the impact you want to have. Because if you don't deal with that, that in of itself is self-sabotage because you're doing every single other person on the planet that you can help a disservice. Yeah? You got this.
Yeah, cheers, Sean.
You got this, Jack.
Round of applause for Jack. This table?
My biggest one is business. I question my knowledge and ability all the time.
Okay.
So like, I've come from a teaching background for 13 years. Ask me anything to do with teaching, I'm on it. Like,
Okay.
100%. With coaching, it's like, oh, I don't know. But I do know, but I just question that ability all the time.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever question the doubt?
I think I just doubt myself all the time.
But I'm
So, like,
asking
is
you, do you
that-
ever doubt the self-doubt? So you have doubt.
Yeah.
People say, oh, I'm struggling with self-doubt. And I say, well, do you ever doubt the self-doubt? Do you? No. Exactly. Is this Landon? Yeah, no, like, people say they're struggling with kind of self-doubt all of the time. And it's like, well, why didn't you doubt the self-doubt? And I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. No, of course. Because why? Because the brain is trying to protect you. Potential threat. Remember right before. That's all that's happening there. Thank you for sharing. What's your name?
Marina.
Marina, nice to meet you. Over here, this table.
I think I self-sabotage when I don't track my data and finances closely enough.
Okay.
I think it leaks over to other parts of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I got a fitness coach at the start of this year,
Mm-hmm.
and my health and fitness is sort of back on track. I let it go a little bit last year, and I think if I had the organisation to keep my finances in place, I could have got that earlier.
Got you.
And I think it just makes things long out more.
Got you.
With my lack of organisation around that.
Okay. Just picking up on your language there, you keep saying think. Sounds like you know, because you have evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah? Thank you for sharing. What's your name?
Jack.
Jack. I asked you before, apologies. And then finally here, I missed anyone else? No? This table here?
Mine is the business side of things. I'm still a full-time veterinary nurse, and I see that as like a stable income, and that makes me feel so like comforted and banked in. I'm just trying to let go of some hours from then, but then I think right, that's my stable income just gone,
Okay.
and that really petrifies me.
Okay.
I can make a stable income from being an online coach like that.
Got you. Okay. I'm going to share something in a bit. Will be very helpful for that. So just right next to what you've just mentioned to me, just the big letter A. The letter A, yeah. Cool. Any questions before we move on? Should we move on to the limits and transferred beliefs? Yeah? Is this stuff helpful for you first? Yeah? Cool. I don't know what's happened here. Here we go. Okay. Limits and transferred beliefs. Oh, goodness. Spent a long time talking about this. So, many beliefs that you have are not even yours. You just think they are because you've believed them for so long. Write this down. Many beliefs that you have are not even yours. You just think they are because you've believed them for so long. As soon as you've got it, pens down, so I know everyone's done. I feel a bit like a teacher up here. Is this what it feels like being a teacher?
Easier being a teacher.
Bless you. Okay, give you 20 more seconds. Almost done, Kane?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to give you some examples, some personal examples. When I was younger, my mum, when I was walking the streets with my mum, we would see someone, so just for context, from a council estate, don't need an X Factor sub story, we didn't have any money. And my mum used to say when people drove past in really fast cars, really nice cars, expensive cars, she would tell me, Sean, they're overcompensating for something else. And I never knew what that meant because I was a kid, right? And I kind of had this drilled into me that people who are rich are bad. Now, if you have this belief and you hold this consciously or subconsciously, guess what you're going to spend your entire life avoiding? Having lots of fucking money. Because we do not want to be bad. I'll give you a fun one. So when I was also younger, Mum used to tell me, Sean, roller coasters are dangerous. People die on them. She told me this when I was really young. And since then, I've never been to Alton Towers. But the reason I'm sharing this with you is because this is what my mum told me. And she's my mum, so I just believed her. Like, this is someone who, whatever she said, I just believed. She could have told me anything, I would have believed her. But this literally now, I'm 33 and I've never been to Alton Towers. Now, granted, from my whole 20s, when all of my friends were going to Alton Towers and whatnot, I would avoid it because I thought they were bad. I thought they were dangerous. Now, since then, I have been on a roller coaster and I didn't die, which is good. But my point being is, of course, what my mum was trying to do in her own weird way was protect me, right? So that's all she was doing. She thought she was helping me, and maybe she did. But the reality is we could also argue maybe she harmed me because she prevented me from having fun with my friends and experiencing roller coasters, etc. So that's a fun one. Now let's unpack this one. This here is a belief that I held from about 16 to about 26. And because I held this belief subconsciously, and the reason why, again, not to give you an X Factor sub story, but the context is relevant. When I was 16, my stepfather and I had this huge altercation, and I said to my mum, I said, if he is staying in this house, then I'm leaving, thinking she's my mum, she's going to choose me. She said to me, where are you going to go then? So I was like, fuck. So I went to a homeless hostel, blah, blah, blah. And from about 16 to 26, I thought I'm not worthy of a loving relationship. Like the one person in my life that I thought I could depend on, I couldn't. So if any of you hold this belief subconsciously, anytime you get into a relationship with somebody that cares for you, that loves you, that is actually a nice person, you will probably push them away. You'll probably cheat on them. Maybe if you don't cheat on them, you'll get locked in. You're like, oh, I'm too busy for a relationship. It's bullshit. Now, I'll tell you why this happens really quickly. The brain is always striving for something called cognitive consonance. And cognitive consonance is when our internal beliefs match our external reality, okay? And if our internal beliefs don't match our external reality, that is something we call cognitive dissonance. And if we have these internalized beliefs and the external reality and they don't match, which one do you think we push away? Which one do you think we change? Yeah, external, exactly. So whenever someone gets close, we push them away. This is maybe why, if you really struggle, and let's move away from the love and relationship for a moment. If you struggle with finances, maybe you have a belief that you're never going to have a certain amount of money. I'll tell you a quick story. I had a client, and she used to tell me that she really struggles with money. And I was like, how much is the most money you've had in your bank? She's really brand new. She was like, oh, about 7 grand. I was like, well, what happens when you kind of get past that? And she said, well, I start looking for new things to buy. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she said, well, I start looking for a new mentorship. I'll start looking at new technology. And I start looking at this and start looking at that. Now, she clearly was self-sabotaging there. And every single time she'd get really, really close to the goal, which she never thought she was going to hit, what did she do? She sabotaged herself. So I like to share this one because, yes, we're all business owners. Yes, we're all kind of, wanting to grow the business. But this shit happens outside of business too. Okay?
Can I just ask how this could relate to relationships with clients and when a client leaves, obviously everyone knows it hits with the gut.
Yeah.
Shit feeling. Is there any relation to that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if someone had this belief that they're a really shit coach and that their coaching program isn't that good, if that's a subconscious belief that they hold, then externally they're going to act in congruence with that belief. So they're not going to maybe take as much care on the check-ins. Bear in mind, I'm not a fitness coach, so just humor me with the language. But they wouldn't take as much care with the check-ins. Maybe they wouldn't actually, maybe they say, I'll get your training program updated on the weekend, and then they do it on Tuesday, right? Because what's happening there is your actions are congruent. And very simply, your brain is always looking for evidence to support the beliefs that you hold. And every single time you fuck up, your brain's like, told you you're a shit coach. Look, that's another client that's left. Told you you're really shit. You could never get 10 grand in your bank. Like, look, It's back on 8. Is this landing? Is this making sense? Yeah? So yeah, if you hold these beliefs, of course, they're just kind of stories we tell ourselves. Really cool thing about beliefs is beliefs are doubts. Who here is religious? Anyone religious? Anyone believe in God? Yeah? Cool. The reason you believe in God is because you don't know if God exists. And if you don't know if God exists, also means that he could not exist. Or she, yeah, whoever said that. Or they. My point being is every single belief that we hold is a doubt. And if something is a doubt, it also means that we could be wrong. Someone said before, I think I'm not a good coach. It's a thought. It's a belief, which also means you could be wrong. Maybe you're a really good coach. Okay. So, to summarize, we come into this world as a blank canvas. People around us transfer their beliefs onto us. Think of my mum and the roller coaster, this picture here. These people on this roller coaster, this is not me, unfortunately. The really important thing to mention is they pass it on to us intentionally or unintentionally. And people can do this with every kind of best intention, and they think they're helping us. In actual fact, they're harming us. I remember telling someone I was starting a business, someone in my family told me it's a huge risk. Now, my response was, the biggest risk is not taking this risk. However, in their world, their map of the world, like we discussed earlier, they've just always had a job. So for them, they were just trying to help me. They don't want to see me go broke, etc. But again, more harmful than helpful. So I wouldn't be stood here if I listened to them. Okay, who can relate to this? Limits and transferred beliefs. Stand up on your feet if you can relate to limits and transferred beliefs, if you have limits and transferred beliefs. Okay. Amazing. Not amazing you've all got them, but amazing everyone stood up. Okay, amazing. Sit back down.
Actually, that's really quickly. I've just realised it's not just that I have them. You saying that, I project them onto my son. Because my son's nearly 9.
Uh-huh.
He won't learn to ride his bike because he's scared. When he was really young, we didn't let him climb anything. We didn't let him. My husband would have had him in a high vis, like 24/7.
Yeah.
And because of that, he's now scared to do things. So I'm seeing what your mum did to you and realising that I've done it to him as well. So it's like,
I'm not a parent. Thank you for sharing. What's your name?
Heather.
Heather. I'm not a parent, but what I can say is I know for a fact, because of the work I've done, like we're all going to pass beliefs on to our children, you know, be it intentionally or unintentionally. And I don't think there's anything we can do about that. That's just the reality. I think what I like to, and again, I'm not a parent, so like take this with a pinch of salt. I like to encourage people to like allow their children to think for themselves. You know, like for an example, had a client and he was, oh, my kid wants to, you know, climb the tree, and my missus is like, no, I don't want him to. And I'm like, let him climb it. If he falls, we'll see. Now, I'm not saying you should do that, but he's like, let him learn. Yeah, let him learn in his own way, rather than kind of trying to, you know, wrap cotton wool around him. But thank you for sharing. That's very, it's very succinct to what we've just covered. Okay, I'm not going to run round because we'll be here all day because we are all flawed imperfectly. But you've all mentioned that you can relate to this. Amazing. Okay, anxiety of change. Let's go through this one. I like this one. Now, I want you to listen to this very carefully. I want you to put your left hand up if you have stayed in a job longer than you should have. Okay, keep it up. Keep the left one up. Now I want you to put the right one up if you stayed in a relationship longer than you should have. Okay, okay, take a look. Take a look around. Keep your arms up and look around. Keep your arms up. Okay. Amazing. Put your arms down. Thank you for sharing. This is anxiety of change. You mentioned before about, was it yourself? Excuse me? Yeah, this is anxiety of change. This is where we cling on to what's familiar, even if what's familiar is harming us. This is where I see a lot of people. I'll tell you a quick story. I spoke with a coach very recently, actually, maybe someone for you, Dan, a fitness guy. And he had access to the investment, and he come on the call, and he was miserable. He was miserable, and he's in great shape. And I was like, went through the whole discovery, and then I just shared with him, listen, mate, like I can go through the program, but you don't even seem like you want to be a fitness coach anymore. And he went, well, it's funny you say that. I've been thinking about not doing it. And I was like, I can tell. I can tell. Now, I didn't end up pitching this guy because I just thought his heart wouldn't be in it. But what he said to me was interesting, and it's very relevant for today. He said, I've been a coach for 8 years. It's all I know. Just because you've done something for so long, that is not the exact reason to continue doing it if you are miserable from doing it. In fact, I would argue it's the complete reason why you should stop doing it. This is just called the sunk cost fallacy. I talked to you before about 6, 7, and 8-figure business owners. So many business owners are in marriages they hate. And I'm sharing that because this is what I see as a common pattern is a very wealthy man, you know, doing really, really well, fucking hates his marriage. I'm like, why don't you just fucking leave her? He's like, I've been with her for 24 years, Sean. I can't do that. I'm like, well, let's not make it 25. People tell themselves stories to justify their behaviors. Every single one of you here is sat here today because of a story you've told yourself. You convinced yourself that coming to this in-person event would be valuable. The reason you're taking notes is because you've convinced yourself that it's going to be helpful. Every single thing we do, every day, every week, every month, and every year is backed up by a story that we tell ourselves. So we best make sure that the story that we tell ourselves is pushing us towards where we want to be. Okay? Is anyone here in a, and let's not do the relationship because I don't want to go down that one, but in a job that they don't want to be in? Yourself? Anyone else? Okay, cool. Who's been in that job for like 5 years? Okay. No? Yourself? 8. 8, okay. 17? Who said that? 18. Okay. Oh, bingo! 18. Okay. You hate it? Okay. What's the goal? When you're leaving?
This afternoon.
Okay. Wow.
Was going to leave, and then they offered me a leadership.
Okay. Let me pause you there. What was the question I just asked? When are you going to leave? This year? Are you asking me or telling me? Okay.
It's a personal identity thing which I've worked on for
Yeah.
the last 2 months.
Yeah, again, you're telling me the story. Yeah. We just told you that. But I'm asking you the question, when are you going to leave? The end of this year?
By the end of this year.
Yeah?
I'm hoping it'll be by the end of the year.
How long you got left with Dan?
Till June, I think.
Okay, you're going to continue and then stay on until December? Okay. Do you need anything additional from Dan to make sure you'll be able to leave the job?
I don't know where I'm at.
Okay, cool. Can we all hold you accountable for the end of the year?
Oh, please don't.
Can we?
Can we just make sure that my husband keeps his job?
Will you make a commitment today that you'll leave at the end of the year?
I've made that commitment. I've
Yeah?
made that commitment with my mum.
Okay, I'm asking you to make it with all of us in this room today.
Yeah, I will leave by the end
Yeah?
of the year. Yeah.
What's your name? Kate. Amazing. Thank you. Okay, cool. So, question. Stand up if you were apprehensive of joining Dan's mentorship. Okay, amazing. Sit back down, thank you. That right there is the anxiety of change. You're on a sales call, and maybe you see this within your prospects as well.
You know, I actually joined Dan because I hated my previous job and I was ready
Cool.
to get rid of it. And I was like, change is not going to happen unless you just do it.
So there's no anxiety of change for you?
No,
Amazing. Cool, let's go.
caffeine and I'm fine.
Okay, cool.
Done with other people.
Perfect. So this is anxiety of change. Like, You're on a call with Dan. Dan, do you still take your sales calls? Yeah. So you're on a call with Dan. Dan goes through everything. You know he can fucking help. And then it comes down to the commitment, pay in full, split pay. And you're like, oh, shit, let me find a reason not to do it. It's anxiety of change. There's a gentleman at the back of the room who's going to teach you sales later. And he's probably seen this every single day.
To be fair, I've had anxiety as to why he was standing. I thought you were security.
This is like a dodgy Audi looking security guard. Sounds like you've done something bad as well.
Right, so that's the anxiety of change. When you're in the buying pocket with the prospect, you know the prospect needs your help, you know you can help them, and now you've dealt with all of the objections, or at least you probably think you have, and then they're still apprehensive and they're wondering and they're worrying, and maybe you did this as well. Maybe you thought, oh, I'll do it next week when I get a little bit more money. Oh, I'll do this. Again, they're just stories. Why? Because we're anxious to change, even if that change is going to help us. Okay, because we're trying to cling on to what's familiar. Again, this comes back to what I said at the beginning. We're trying to avoid a threat rather than attain a reward. We're trying to avoid paying the mentorship rather than growing the business. And in that moment, we're just trying to keep us safe because the brain is there to keep us safe. It doesn't care about you having a thriving coaching business. It cares about keeping you safe. Okay, so to summarize, our brains cling on to what's familiar, even if what's familiar is not making us happy, because it does not want to challenge the status quo. Think of the sunk cost fallacy that I mentioned before. Okay? Think of people staying in relationships longer than they need to. Think of people staying in jobs longer than they need to. Again, it's all anxiety of change. You okay over there? Okay, there you go.
And Sean, to this point as well, like on the sales call, and if everyone in the room just admitted that they had that anxiety of change, but then when someone does it to them, and they feel bad, like handling that objection, knowing that you almost backed out yourself, it's like you're going to let them bottle it when you know you almost did that too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a sales trainer once, and he told me, you are your objections. You attract the objections that you have yourself. And I was like, fuck, that's powerful. I remember jumping on the call with him, and I said, oh, I'm not paying in full. I'll split pay. And he's like, I knew you wouldn't pay in full. And I was like, how? And he said, you told me your clients aren't paying in full. And I was like, I was like, interesting. So yeah, something I'm working on at the moment is being more comfortable in the buying pocket with a prospect. We've had our record-breaking week this week alone, and out of the 5 clients we signed, 3 of them told me they weren't signing up on the call. Okay, now stand up. You know the drill by now if you can relate to anxiety or change. Everyone stand up, come on. If you don't relate to it, don't stand up. This is me just checking if it's actually helpful for you or not. Okay, amazing. Sit back down. Thank you very much. Were you all right for time, Dan?
Yep.
Okay, cool. This is need for control. This is the last one I'm going to go through with you. And then I'm going to give you a few bits and pieces. Then we're going to do Q&A. So, need for control. I want you to think of your coaching business like a staircase. Okay? Let's say it's 100 steps to success. Now, if you struggle with the need for control, if this is an element of your life plan that causes you to self-sabotage, then you will be the type of person that thinks, what if this happens, what if this happens, what if this happens? Okay, let me give you an example. Just a show of hands. Who runs ads? Okay, cool. So if you struggle with the need for control, so I'll give you an example for you and then your prospects. If you struggle with the need for control, you probably think, oh, well, when I boost the ad, then what do I do? How long do I boost it for? Then how much do I spend? And then what if after I've spent that, then what happens? Like, then do I retarget? Like, what happens? I need to know all of this before I take the first step. Anyone relate to that? Yeah, that's a need for control. You don't need to know what's on step 27, 28, 30, 54 to take step 1 and 2. Take the first step, deal with that. what I see most of all, and I'll share this because I think it'll be really helpful, I see coaches all of the time trying to solve problems they haven't even got yet. Oh, I don't want to do that because I don't want to have too many clients. Don't worry, you're not going to have any. You're not that good. I see it happen all the time. It's like we try and solve problems we haven't got yet. It's self-sabotage. Don't do it. Okay, what's the first step? Run the ad. Cool, done. What's next? Okay, then do this. Cool. Now what? I'm not saying that you shouldn't do due diligence. Of course, we need to know. We're not going into these things blind. We want to make sure we're doing enough research so that we can make the right decision rather than doing research to prevent us from taking action. So, these types of people, they very rarely think of what if, yeah?
Just a question on what you just said.
Yes.
I think I have a problem with not doing enough research
Okay.
on what I do.
Okay.
Would you say that that's a problem or not?
Is it moving you towards where you want to be?
Generally tends to, yeah.
Okay. So if it's not broke, then why would you fix it?
Yeah.
I'll give you a quick story. I hired my business mentor about 18 months ago, paid $8,000 on the call. I'd watched a bit of his content and I paid $8K on the call and I didn't even like hesitate. Paid him the money. The reason I'm sharing this is it's relevant. I'm not being an arsehole. I paid him the money because I used logical reasoning, right? He'd already helped 10 other coaches minimum get to like 30, 40, 50, 100K. So I was of the belief if he has helped these people, then it's realistic he's going to be able to help me. There's logical reasoning. Like I didn't think emotionally. I was just like, okay, well, you've helped all these people. You're doing 200 grand a month. Probably help me. Here's the money. So I used logical reasoning to make that decision. And you could argue kind of, I didn't think it through enough. But again, it worked. So why would I change that? Now, this isn't me saying go and, just spend your money. But my point being there is a lot of the time our emotional brain keeps us stuck. Again, this is probably similar when you're in the buying pocket with a prospect. And again, I'm not the expert on sales, but if someone gives you an objection and you're like, oh shit, what do I say? I need to talk to my husband. You're like, oh fuck. Like what you're doing there is your emotional brain is taking over. The amygdala is hijacking the prefrontal cortex. That's what's happening. So you need to be able to attack that rationally rather than emotionally. Yes?
And I think that actually most of the time when we don't take action, it's not down to that person that is selling to us, but it's us again self-sabotaging. And we think we need to commit now, it will mean X amount of work compared to what we do now. And it's mostly us actually.
Yeah, absolutely. It is absolutely us, 100%. What I see people do all of the time, and obviously what we help coaches with is end self-sabotage. At the end of the call, are like, oh yeah, I want to do it. I'm just going to do it on this or whatever. I need to feed my cat or go and play with the goldfish or whatever. And I'm like,
I see with my clients, like potential clients that I speak to, and I'm scared of commitments, and nothing will change.
Yeah. Yeah, well, first and foremost, I always look inward when it comes to stuff like that. I'm like, I need to, because sales is a skill, and I believe you can master any skill. It takes time, repetition. So first and foremost, I'm like, well, okay, how do I handle that better? Okay, cool, let me go and get a sales coach and work on that. But just like I said before, those handful of people, they tried to give me those examples. My response was, listen, you can do this whenever you want. However, I don't want to see you self-sabotage, getting help with self-sabotage, because that's what's happening right now. And they're like,
can you say that again? I don't want to see you. What was that? I use it in my sales skills.
You're going to use my clothes? So I obviously it works with my offer because of what we help people with, right? Yeah. So I say to clients at the end, listen, because they're like, oh, can I join this week next? I'm like, listen, join whenever you want. And don't take this. I'm not the sales expert. The gentleman in the back is.
I like that.
But my point being there is I'm like, listen, you can join this today, tomorrow, next week, next month. It makes no odds to me. I'm not the one with the problem. I was like, but what I don't want to see you do is self-sabotage, getting help with self-sabotage, because that's what's happening right now. And they're like, yeah, it is. Here's my credit card. Yeah. Cool. So these people, as I said, they never think of what if this doesn't happen. No one, when you were all apprehensive of joining Dan's kind of mentorship program, call it what you will, no one ever thought, oh, what if I can make a load of money and then quit my job and then buy a nice car and go on all of these holidays. No one overthinks the positives. We always overthink the negatives. So, if you overthink every decision, this is need for control. I have a question for you. Who here thinks they're an overthinker? Okay, keep your arm up. Put your arm nice and high for me. Okay. So you all think you're an overthinker? Okay. So keep it up. Let me just keep it up. I want to ask you all a question while the arm's up. How do you all know that you're not an underthinker?
Because I think about things rather than not taking action, just getting on with it.
Okay, so let me ask you, what's the right amount of thinking we should be doing for every decision? Because I don't know what that answer is. Exactly, so you're all identifying with being an overthinker. I just asked you, how do you know you're not an underthinker? Now that's probably got you thinking, hasn't it?
It's like you think about it, think about one thing, and then that goes on to, and then you keep thinking over and over again.
Yeah.
Should you just like not think and just do the thing?
It'd help, wouldn't it? My point being is, I'm not telling you not to think, you need to think critically. That's all you need to think is critically. The problem is, these people that overthink, like I always tell people, when they come to me, I'm overthinking it, I'm like, how do you know? Like, how do you know you're not underthinking it? No one ever comes to me, Sean, I'm an underthinker. Can you help me? I'm like, no one does that. Because nobody knows what the right amount of thinking is. Again, it's just a story we tell ourselves. Now, am I saying that overthinking doesn't exist? No, of course not. What I'm saying is it's very subjective and it's a label that we give ourselves. And if we want to overthink, we can also underthink. We're choosing to overthink time and time again. That makes sense? Yes. We don't need to overthink.
Well, there's no difference between procrastinating and overthinking.
Oh, we can unpack that.
We've not got long enough for that one.
No, we haven't. Okay, so write this down. Overthinking is a misuse of imagination. Yeah. Yeah, do you want to say it louder so everyone can hear?
Overthinking
Yeah.
is a misuse of imagination.
Correct.
Sean, another good example of overthinking is some of you guys, when you ask me about which fitness app to use, it's like, so I'm flipping the trainer eyes and I'm also looking at my PT hub and I'll say, just flip a coin, like, at that point, because at some point you've just got to just pick one. And you think I'm joking, but genuinely there's been times when I've had to just blindly pick something, or
Yeah.
flip a coin, and it really does help just removing the emotion out of it.
Yeah. Need for control. It's like, oh, I don't want to get it wrong. Yeah. Well, not having one is doing it wrong. Yeah. Just fucking pick one.
It's not taking ages getting it wrong.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, has everyone got that down? Yeah. Overthinking is a misuse of imagination. Okay, cool. Remember that today when you tell yourself that you're overthinking something. Because again, no one ever overthinks good things, do they? Only bad things. So, need for control is needing to know what to do at every step. And if you don't know what happens at every step, you won't take the first step. Or maybe you take the first step, but then you struggle to take the next step and the next step and the next step. Okay. Again, you know the drill now. Stand up if you can relate to the need for control. Come on, I know it's getting a bit long in the morning. Probably all need a coffee. We're nearly done here, don't worry. Okay, cool. Sit back down. Okay, listen in. This is the hard truth. Today, unfortunately, I cannot give you the answers on how to solve every single one of these problems. I'm good, but I'm not a fucking magician. So, what I can do is I can give you one thing that will be able to help you the next time you find yourself self-sabotaging. And this is for you to recognize and ask, what part of my life plan is causing me to self-sabotage? Is it poor self-concept, limits and transferred beliefs, anxiety of change, or need for control? Now, don't be fooled by the simplicity of this. This isn't redundant. If you spend 6 hours self-sabotaging, but then If you spend 6 hours typically self-sabotaging, and then 1 hour comes and you ask yourself this question and it allows you to take action, then you've significantly reduced the time frame on which you're getting in your own way. The problem with self-sabotage is these thoughts that keep us stuck, they're subconscious, they're automatic, and they're habitual. So the first step is always recognizing them. Okay, what story am I telling myself? Oh, there's no point me, reaching out today because I've not had any calls booked. Oh, there's no point posting this content because my reach is really shit. Again, stories we tell ourselves. If we can recognize them, we can challenge and change them. Now, some of you in the room might be in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. The age is redundant. My point being is this. Every single one of you can change the way you think. It just takes time. And I say to people all of the time, real meaningful transformation happens over time and not overnight. So, has everybody got this down? Yeah? Cool. So I asked you all, sorry, go on.
Just a question on the last bit. Do we need to identify which part of that it is, or is that just another form of self-sabotage trying to figure out what I need to fix?
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't take you too long. If I've done a good enough job today, you'll be able to recognize, okay, poor self-concept, limits and transferred beliefs, anxiety, change, need for control. Everything that you do will fall into one of those 4 categories. This isn't a mental model you'll see elsewhere. I've created this mental model over the last 4 years. So, poor self-concept, social roles you play, limits and transferred beliefs, beliefs that have been transferred from other people. Some people have beliefs that aren't theirs, that they've taken from authority figures. See this a lot, like Hormozi fans. Like, Hormozi's obviously great in the space, but just because he believes something doesn't mean we need to believe it too. I have upper deckies, like these nicotine things. Someone offered me one at Marbella, and I was like, what is it? And he was like, doesn't matter, Hormozi has it. I was like, I don't give a fuck if Alex has it. Like, what is it? And this is the thing, and it really kind of made sense to me in that moment, because the reason he was having it is because Alex Hormozi has it and he's the GOAT. What a fucking stupid reason to have something. My point being there is, of course, these the great, amazing kind of figures. And what we want to do is we want to kind of ask ourselves and often kind of recognize what beliefs that we have and where they come from. Like, are they actually our beliefs? Like, I need to get locked in, I need to work 16 hours a day. Says who?
But Sean, so just on that then, give us just a little trick, because there's things that you could teach yourself, say, like a small, saying to what are those things called where you look in the mirror? Affirmation. You could have something to be like, I need to catch myself right now. Because loads of us have all of these things, like, I'm going to not post this, or I'm not going to click the go button, I'm not going to buy an advert, I'm not going to buy that.
Mm-hmm.
What's your 2-second trick to nail down some of this self-sabotage?
There isn't a 2-second trick. Yeah. I want to be ethical. There isn't a 2-second. Why are you doing what you're doing? I spoke to this gentleman here, Jack, before, and he was talking about he wants to impact people. If you're letting your own kind of issues and insecurities getting in the way, that's on you. Yes, you can solve it, but the way I like to look at it is make it less about you. It's not about you. There's clients out there that need your help. Make it about them. What would you do to help them? People tell me, I really want to kind of help 1,000 people. Well, your actions aren't congruent with it. I'm not saying, be apathetic and not care and fuck your feelings. I'm not saying that. I'm saying recognizing them and then act in spite of them. I feel a bit anxious about posting this. Okay, that's okay. Feel that anxiety and fucking post it. I feel really shit. I've just been on 5 sales calls and every single one of them has said no. Shit, isn't it? You don't have to be an entrepreneur. Get better at sales. Are you getting the right people on the call? Are you asking them the right questions? Are you leaning on Dan for support? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible. So to answer your question, there's no kind of 2-second thing. Of course, I have difficult days, difficult weeks, difficult months. I'm a human being. Every single person in here does. But I think it's very selfish. Honestly, I'm not being rude. I'm not being arrogant. I think it's selfish. For me to let my own issues prevent me from having the impact on the world I want to have, that's selfish. You're a coach. You want to help people. So, as I said, I'm not saying don't feel your feelings. I'm saying feel them. In fact, I think emotional literacy is very important to be able to regulate your emotions. I feel anxiety coming up right now. Okay, what are you going to do about it? You're going to go to the gym, you're going to go for a walk, you're going to do some breath work. Don't avoid the feelings, like regulate them.
I think you could also, what came to my mind is letting go those emotions, because they come and go, and the only way we give them impact is through kind of reliving them. And obviously it's easier said than done, but like observe, notice the emotion and let it go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. You know, you're feeling anxious, for an example. I was sat there. There's a fucking lot of you here. I was very anxious. What did I do? I went outside. Ellie will tell you. I went outside. I said I was going to change my top. Did some breath work in that room next door. Just a few deep breaths and then came up. At the very beginning, I was shitting myself. But again, I want to have the impact I want to have. These are the things I need to do. Dan mentioned at the beginning, like, be out your comfort zone. I've come back from skiing on Saturday and I've just been on calls all week. I was actually looking forward to today just to be not sat at my desk. But I was coming down the train and I still have those thoughts. Oh, you know, a couple of days ago, shall I just ask Dan if he can get someone else? Oh, you know, this is a lot of people. I've not spoken in front of this many people. Again, it's just what I said to you before. It's my life plan. The one that's created to keep us safe. So again, like, I'm not saying you're not going to have these feelings come up. It's what you do when you have them. Do you let them hinder you? Or do you listen, feel them, and then act in spite of them? So yeah, there's no 2-minute source I can give you there. As I said, I'm good. I'm not a magician. There was a question somewhere. Jack?
I've never done it because I used to think it was a bit like airy-fairy. But you mentioned that a lot of it comes from like your subconscious and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
How, let's say if we was to start journaling every day,
Yeah.
start our day with positive thoughts or affirmations or maybe important bullet points that we need to get done.
Yeah.
What kind of impact do you think that would have on you?
Can I speak freely?
Yeah, go for it.
Let's imagine someone's significantly overweight and they look in the mirror every day and they say, I am thin, I am thin, I am thin. And then there's still stuff in their mouth with crisps and chocolate and not movement. Is that going to change anything? No. Exactly. So I'm not saying affirmations, like just fuck them off. I don't teach affirmations because like we can say one thing, but then our actions have to be congruent with it, right? So for me, in terms of kind of dealing with these subconscious beliefs that we have, there's 2 things you can do. Like if you want to, I mean, there's plenty of free resources out there, right? Like you can go crazy. Let's look at the free stuff. Go crazy, look on YouTube and how to actually change beliefs. One of the best things you can do, you're all coaches, is to find a coach to actually help you with them. Not someone, and this is no disrespect to people who have branded themselves as mindset coaches, not someone who's just called themselves a mindset coach, someone who has actually got the reps of helping people with these things. I did it through therapy. My last relationship was absolutely horrendous, and I was in the same situation time and time again, and I was wondering, why does this keep happening to me? And I was the common denominator. It was me. I needed to deal with the things that I was, you know, avoiding. So don't, and this is, again, no disrespect to people who say they're mindset coaches, but not someone who just has branded themselves on, someone who's actually experienced in it. So yes, you can do journaling. That is going to bring a lot. I always say to people, like, the only way to understand what's going on inside of us is to let it out, and journaling's a great tool for that. I journal, but I use it more so as kind of, rather than preventative, I use it to deal with when I'm feeling a bit anxious.
As part of other things as well, like breath work.
Yeah, it's as part of, I mean, my life's really, really boring. Like really, really boring. I'm 90% sober. You know, I'm up at the same time. I go for a walk at the same time. Live in the same house. Be with my girlfriend. Like I do skiing when I'm free. But apart from that, I work. I have a small family. My life's really boring. So I'm not doing anything that contributes negatively, well, as much as everybody else, to their mental health. Don't take drugs. Very rarely drink, unless I'm skiing. You know, I don't vape or anything like that. Like I take care of myself. I eat well. So yeah, I think a lot of the time when people are struggling with their mental health, like, let's first and foremost look inward and see, okay, what are you doing to contribute to that poor mental health? Okay, yeah, you're fucking staying up watching porn all night. That's probably not good. Yeah, I'm just being honest. Like, you're laughing. These are the things that people struggle with, you know? Going out on the weekend, getting charlied off their head, and then wondering why they feel shit on a Monday or a Tuesday. Again, people are laughing. I can see some people are giving people side eyes.
That was me.
Exactly, it was me too. So that's why I'm sharing it. But is that helpful for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the affirmations is just kind of one thing. Like, it's not just going to change your life. Like I said, you're all fitness coaches. If someone was really overweight and they kept eating and not moving, it's not going to change, is it? Yourself?
In terms of, my brain is always looking to reaffirm negatively.
Correct.
Even if something happens and it's not that, my brain will switch it to think that's happening. Goes into like panic mode.
Yeah.
I know you said there's no 2-second thing that I can do in that moment, but how do I challenge those beliefs? Because they're so ingrained, how do I then stop?
Yeah.
Because I can see a recurring pattern.
Yeah, so for an example, okay, sorry to interrupt you there. So for an example, let's say I thought I was going to really stumble upon my words on this talk today. And then I came up here and then I started to stumble upon my words and my brain's like, see, there it is. You knew you were going to do that. What's then going to happen? And then going to be like, oh, fuck, a bit of anxiety, probably going to feel even worse. You'll notice at the beginning, I started stumbling over my words at the beginning. What did I do? I slowed down. And I was like, okay, I'm safe. All your brain is doing there is thinking that it's not safe, but I'm safe. You all want to see me win, right? Yeah. Exactly, so I know I'm safe, but at the beginning, I'm a lot less anxious now than I was at the beginning. So you just said my brain does that. Everyone's brain does that. It's just to what extent? Because remember, the brain is designed to keep you safe, help you avoid threats, rather than attain the rewards, and that's self-sabotage. So what you can do, again, it all starts with recognizing. Like recognizing the thought. You can challenge the thought. Okay, how do I know it's real? This lady in front of you said, I don't think I'm a good coach. Okay, so what did I ask her to do? Go and collate evidence that challenges the thought. Go and ask all of your 25? 24. 25 today. 24. Go and ask your 24 clients, like, can you help me break this belief? Like, I want to know, can I be doing any more for you? Am I actually doing a good job here? Because then when they say, yeah, you're doing amazing, like everything's brilliant, I absolutely love it, best thing I've ever done. Okay. But it's not just a case of do it and then it changes it. You have to consistently do it, okay? Because you're consistently having all of those thoughts. So you consistently need to combat them. Does that make sense? Yeah. Amazing.
I don't actually have a question, but I have something that, I don't know, might feel helpful. So I take literally ages to finish a book, like ages. I'm not one of those people who can read a book in like 5 minutes and it's done, but I've been reading this one, and it's called The Little Book of Big Change.
Okay.
Within there, what I thought was really interesting is that they say that although you have, gosh, I need more water. You need more water? Although, where's my tray going? So although you might have these feelings, you're not equal to them. So you have them, you have awareness, you understand that they're there, but you understand that those things are not you. So like it's the same thing that you can relate to like people that have issues with like food, like binge eating and stuff. It's having that almost like that that perspective from above, like you're overlooking the situation as opposed to being within it and going, oh my God, like these are my thoughts, this is what I think of myself. It's more like, no, have an observation, and then, don't know if that's helpful.
I don't know, is it helpful?
Yeah?
Yeah, it's helpful then.
Thanks.
Perfect. Any other questions? Hello.
Yeah, I know what my self-limiting beliefs are, but I don't know where they stem from. Do you think that's important, or you know where they come from?
That's a brilliant question. Did everyone hear that? Yeah. Well, okay, say it one more time.
Yeah, I know like what my self-limiting beliefs are. Like, I think I'm really like disorganized and stuff. And I know you said earlier about the roller coaster. You know where those beliefs stem from. But I've got no clue where it might come from. So I was just wondering, do you think it's important that you know that, or?
That's a great question. Yeah, great question. No, it doesn't matter. We don't need to know where they've come from. We just need to know that we have them so that we can change them. So there's two people, Luke and Kane. So we'll start with you, Kane.
I think it's pretty A, to be honest.
Okay. You think or you know?
I think probably that causes me to self-sabotage the most is kind of coming to like sleep and like waking up early so I can try and get more things done in the morning.
Okay.
But I just find trying to get everything in the day causes me to go to bed like later, so if I wake up like super early, then it's just I can do some things, but mental, cognitive, mental performance throughout the day is just going to be low. So
you think it's the A?
Anxiety of change, anxiety of the discomfort of feeling that way for the whole day, but I suppose it would probably correct itself soon enough after a few days where I'm just exhausted and I just wake up early.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, just shared with you, I come back from skiing and I was up 5, 6, and I was wiped out the first day. I've sat over there earlier on, just yawning. As soon as I got on that train, I'm going to sleep. But I did the exact same. I knew I have to come back. I have a load to do, and I was just like, right, let me just persevere through the pain, because it's either like I get to decide like short-term discomfort or long-term discomfort. Long-term is I don't manage to do what I need to do, or short-term is I get up early, regardless of whether I want to do it or not. So yeah, anxiety change. Well done. Hello, my friend, funnel hacker.
Yeah, man, that's me.
Nice, bro. So how can I support you?
I don't know. I don't really hold any like limiting beliefs right now.
Okay, cool. So where's the business at?
What do you mean, like in terms of like income? Like, I don't know. I don't really track that.
Okay, sounds like a problem.
Yeah, it could be.
I'm not outing you, by the way. I'm just trying to help you, not harm you. So if you've got no limits and transferred beliefs, then I suspect you'd be in the shape you want to be in. You'd have the money you want to have. You'd be living where you want to be. You'd be living the life of luxury.
Yeah, I mean, like, just as of right now, like, I'm not going to hold any limiting beliefs. I'm just going to, like, obviously know what the right thing to do is.
Okay.
And just continue to do it until I make that progress.
Perfect. Can I just remind you what you just said? You said, I don't have any limits and beliefs, and then you persisted to tell me a belief. And you said you're going to continue to do the right thing. So how do you know it's going to be the right thing?
Results.
Results? How else?
Don't know.
If you don't know, then maybe it's a limits and belief. Maybe you don't know what the right thing is. And again, I'm not telling anybody, I'm not saying this. Thank you for being vulnerable with me. It's just me and you here. But we all have limits and beliefs. And what I would say is if you're unable to identify them, then you probably have more than most. And that's not me being rude, because we all have them. I have them. You know, I was sat over there thinking, oh, am I going to be all right to do this? You know, I'm used to coaching. Like, put me online and I'll do group. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to perform. Is it limits and transferred belief? You know, maybe it wasn't transferred. Maybe it was just a limits and belief. But we all still have them. But if you'd like any additional kind of support on kind of trying to find out, because we will all have them, pop me a message, and or we can talk after this. Yeah? Cool. Any other questions? No? Okay. So I said to you all at the very beginning, I'm going to tell you why you do what you do. I'm going to give you a bit of an insight as to why you do what you do, why you don't do what you know you should do, and why sometimes you think you can't do what you really want to do. Now, moments of truth. Have I done that for you all today?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Happy to do Q&A. If you're interested in a bit more about what we do and who we help, my Instagram's there.
Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
I like the way you spell your name as well.
Yeah?
The wrong way.
I recognized your face.
You know, I thought I recognised you,
Yeah. Some of you are going to check your message request now, like, oh, this fucker's messaged me.
I think you was on a plane with...
I was on a plane? Probably.
Someone tagged you. Maybe it was the last guy that was here.
Chris Brown.
Yeah, he was here in September.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah. That's nice.
Perfect. Was that helpful, guys?
Yeah, it's good, thank you.
Amazing. That's everything I've got for you. As I said, you need anything, let me know.
Thank you.
No problem.